look out! Hang on, everyone, hang on! Keep trying, push off the hull! Unbelievable! Look at the water splash!
That is the biggest hippo I've ever seen.
The Nordic spirit powers through. We'll be in open water soon.
Helm, hard to port. All ahead full.
Lowering sequence initiated. Watch the tension on the main cable. Report subsurface anomalies immediately. Reroute power to the main thrusters now.
The ice is shifting faster than predicted, Captain.
We're losing pressure on the line.
I'm trying to compensate. Hold it steady.
Chạy đây! Băng vỡ rồi! Lùi lại mau!
Hurry up and secure the lines. We need to get below deck.
Engineering, report status on the ice barriers. We are taking heavy pressure on the starboard side. I repeat, brace for heavy impact.
In the heart of the northern winter, where the sun is only a thin streak of light on the cold horizon, the Arctic sea ice stretches endlessly like a giant mirror covered in frost. The air here is so thick and quiet that the sound of the wind becomes thick and heavy, as if it is struggling to survive. From afar, a giant black shadow gradually rises against the pale white background, the steel ship Nordic Spirit. The pride of European fishermen accustomed to living with the cold.
Stop! You melt stop!
With the wind and with the mysteries of the polar ocean, each steel plate on the ship's hull is a trace of time. A testament to hundreds of voyages to a place without borders. Without an easy way back. The engine starts. White steam rises, merging with the air so cold that it can be cut with a knife blade. The deep sound of the ship's whistle echoes through the ice rows tens of kilometers long. Like a greeting from humans to the most pristine land on the planet. On deck, 5 men in reflective orange-red uniforms moved like specks of light in the mist.
Pull! Pull! Get the rope over the side! It's too heavy! We need more slack! Easy now, easy!
They spoke little, communicating only through gestures, through habits forged over years of battling cold and loneliness. Cracked hands gripped the cables. Eyes hidden in their helmets watched the ice slowly breaking under the bow.
Maintain altitude.
Each crackling sound beneath their feet was a breath of the sea.
Watch the tension
In
on
this
cable
land,
3.
humans were not just observers. They were part of the movement of nature, small, fragile, but also strangely strong and resilient. In the control room, the green light from the radar screen reflected on the face of Captain Eric, a man who had spent half his life in the cold ocean. On the electronic map, sonar curves showed the movement of ice and water. Below, hundreds of meters deep, something was moving, slow, huge, and breathing its own. "If we get there before the ice closes," Eric whispered, his voice echoing in the steel hold, "we'll see creatures no one has ever recorded."
She's breathing steady. Okay, lowering her down now.
No one answered, but everyone understood, because this was more than just a research trip, it was a journey into the heart of the Earth. The ship shuddered as it powered up, giant gears turning, cranes shifting, anchor lines screeching. The smell of oil and iron mingled with the sea breeze. In the distance, the last light of day slanted through the ice columns, creating a silvery blue halo. It felt as if the ship were drifting through a corridor made of time, where each piece of ice was a memory sealed away thousands of years ago. Everything was silent, except for the steady hum of the engine, like the heartbeat of the ship itself. In the silence, the guide's voice rang out, low, slow, and deep, like the voice of the sea. People did not come here to conquer. They came to listen, to see, and to understand what the world had forgotten, that life was still beating beneath this seemingly silent ice. Night fell quickly. The sun had completely disappeared behind the clouds.
You're right, it's heading for the deeper water.
Got it. The signal is stable.
Leaving only the blue aurora curling across the sky like a glowing silk ribbon. The light reflected off the hull, the ice, and the faces of the people standing still. In the engine room, the sonar equipment began to operate. The low, steady sound, ping, 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 spread down to the ocean floor. Each response was a slice of the world below, dark, deep, and mysterious. On the screen, black shadows moved, large and slow, taking the shape of giant creatures.
Secure that line before we hit the deep water.
Hey, almost done here.
No one knew exactly what they were, whales, seals, or species that humans had never named. But they knew for sure. They were standing on a layer of ice thinner than ever, right on top of a world in transition. A strong wind blew, carrying steam and fine snow. The deck shook slightly, the headlights illuminating the ice like giant eyes piercing the darkness. The scene was so beautiful it was terrifying, no distinct colors. Just a mixture of white, blue, silver and black blended into a single color, the color of the Arctic. The oldest fisherman in the group whispered that the night sea was breathing. The cold air from his mouth radiated, melted into the snow and mist, then disappeared. The words mixed with the sound of the engine, the rhythm of the waves, like an ancient prayer of mankind sent to the frozen sky. The drone left the ship, gliding further away. From above, the Nordic spirit shrank, only a bright dot in the white sea that stretched to infinity. At the edge of the frame, the aurora still moved slowly. The light seemed to dance with the darkness. Below, the ice cracks into a delicate network. Black water rises, reflecting the burning sky in a blue light. Nature here is not silent. It only speaks in a language rarely heard by humans: constant change. The narrator continues in a soft but powerful voice. Every voyage like this is a time when humans look into the oldest mirror on the planet.
Port signal confirmed. Adjust course to 090. Secure the deck, double time.
They seek data, but what they get in return is a reflection of themselves, small, proud, and fragile before the cold universe. Each person on board knows that just a strong wind or a few more meters of ice crack would be enough to destroy everything. But they still moved forward, like small but steadfast steel grains in the endless cycle of nature. It was late at night. The lights on the deck gave off a faint yellow glow in the mist. Inside the cabin, the fishermen recorded the first measurements. The water temperature dropped rapidly. The density of creatures under the ice was thick. The sound of pens touching notebooks mixed with the steady sound of sonar created a unique melody of the night sea. In the corner of the deck, a man quietly looked down at the black water. He saw nothing, but he knew that below, life was still going on. Quiet, resilient and beautiful enough to make one's heart ache.
Oh, watch out there. Did you see that splash?
And in that moment, man and nature were no longer two opposite poles, but two beats of the same breath. The north wind blew in from afar again, carrying with it a fine dust of snow that glittered like silver powder. Nordic spirit gently swayed in the gradually opening water, the hull of the ship glowing faintly in the mist. Below, the thick, glassy ice cracked in crisscrossing lines, revealing the dark, breathing water. It was a night longer than any other.
I'm soaked. This water is freezing.
A night where time seemed to stand still, where every sound became an echo. The men on board were silent, each with his own thoughts, but all felt the same thing. They were going ever deeper into the heart of this frozen world, where the boundary between life and silence was but a thin mist. In the bridge, Eric remained in front of the radar. His eyes were fixed on the dim blue screen, where faint signals appeared and disappeared like short breaths. He was not afraid of what lay beneath the ice, but of the silence that surrounded it, the silence that made one hear one's own heartbeat. He remembered his youth, when he first set sail. The sea was blue, the ice thick, and everything seemed immutable. Now the ice was melting. The sea was changing, and he was in the midst of a transformation that no one knew where it would lead. Outside, the snow was starting to fall thicker. The ship's headlights cut through the snow like shining blades.
Get clear, move back.
All units, this is Control. We have a synchronized lift underway. Stay clear of the trajectory.
Each snowflake that touched the steel melted into a thin vapor and disappeared into the darkness. A faint hum came from the sonar, not static, but a long, steady, rhythmic echo. One of the engineers leaned in, adjusting the boom, his eyes glued to the oscillating graph. Deep in the water, something huge was moving. It was slow, cyclical, and the echo was stronger than anything they had ever seen. All eyes were on the screen. A large curve appeared, then disappeared. No one spoke. Only the sound of wind and engines. In the control room, blue light reflected off tense faces. Eric nodded slightly. "Mark these coordinates," he said. His voice was low, lost in the hum of the engines. But everyone heard it clearly. A person took notes, the handwriting trembling slightly on the cold paper. Outside, the sea surface was still as a sheet of paper. Only a few air bubbles rising and popping. The drone left the ship.
We are holding course through the storm. Maintain depth and speed.
Lowering to 20 meters. Confirm visual on the waterline.
Roger that. Nearing surface impact.
Circling the ice surface, the lens slowly panning over the widening cracks. The light from the ship's hull cast a large halo on the water, reflecting like a giant eye looking down into the Black Sea. At a depth of nearly 200 meters, the sonar sent back a faint image, a long, punched shadow, moving slightly. They weren't sure what it was, a whale, or a creature forgotten for centuries. The narrator continued, his voice low, as if in harmony with the wind. Underneath the ice lies another world. There, time does not pass as we know it. Every slow movement of that giant creature is the result of millions of years of evolution, of an ecosystem that exists without life. And on the surface, humans, with all their machines, metal, and ambition, are trying to understand the incomprehensible. The wind picked up. The hull of the ship shook with each movement. On deck, fishermen tightened cables, securing equipment. Their faces were covered in snow. Their reflective vests glowing in the headlights. One looked up at the sky, where the purple-blue aurora was dancing violently. The sight was both beautiful and terrifying, as if nature were waking up and examining the intruder in its domain. The ice began to crack into large pieces, the light reflecting off hundreds of broken mirrors. Waves rose, then fell. The sound of ice hitting the hull echoed like a distant drum. Eric gave the order to slow down, to turn toward the thicker ice. The engines roared, spraying white water, the cold air curling into smoke. A strong wind blew across the deck, whipping up the thin layer of snow. For a moment, the entire ship glowed in the midst of the sea of ice. Like a mass of fiery metal in a world of white. The narrator continued, his voice blending with the sound of the engines. When humans push themselves to the limit, they find the greatest thing, not strength, but humility.
Through the thick stuff now. Adjust the tracking angle.
Got it. Signal's holding steady for now.
Before nature, all technology is but a fleeting breath. The only thing left is the will to survive. The storm came as suddenly as a stroke. Thick clouds obscured the aurora. Darkness swallowed the sky. Wind howled. Snow flew. The headlights turned into a blur. Everything on deck shook. Cables taut as strings. In the hold, warning lights flashed red. Sirens wailed. The auto-stabilization system kicked in. Hydraulic pistons pushing the hull to stabilize in the waves. The fishermen gripped the handrails, each bump a deep rumble in their bones. But they still stood there, looking ahead, where the darkness was thicker than usual. Then, like a sigh of the ocean, the storm began to fade. The snow fell lighter, the wind died down, the ship slowed, drifting in the flat water. The sea reflected the blue light from the lights. Like a giant mirror, the aurora appeared again, weak and gentle, in the hold.
Took a heavy hit. Check the hull.
Eric lowered the crane, looked out through the fog-covered windows. He smiled slightly. Under the black water, the sonar picked up the familiar echo. The creature was still there. Still moving, still alive. In this frozen world, life never really disappears. It just hides, waiting for people with the patience to see it. And each time we see it, we learn a little more about ourselves, about our ability to survive in the harsh, and about our respect for the place that gave birth to it all.
Adjust course to 090.
On deck, the fishermen silently watched the water, where the lights reflected like a golden silk on the deep blue. No one spoke. There was only the sound of the wind blowing through the mast, the heavy metal clanging and the steady beat of the engine. The ship continued on, slowly, surely, through the cold night, carrying with it people, technology and the unanswered questions of the ice ocean.